Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting live from the COP21 in Paris, France. Talks here at the UN Climate Summit have been extended into the weekend as representatives from nearly 200 nations work to finalize a global accord. A draft text released Thursday includes the target of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels. Including the 1.5 degrees Celsius target meets a key demand of low-lying and vulnerable nations. Many are concerned, however, the target is voluntary. Also, environmentalists and civil society have expressed concern about many other provisions, and there remain over 50 points of disagreement between nations negotiating the draft. We'll have more from the COP21 after headlines. Syria's key opposition groups have agreed on a negotiating position for future international talks on ending Syria's civil war. Meeting in Saudi Arabia, the rebels agreed to talks with the Syrian regime, but only if President Bashar al-Assad and his top aides step down at the start of any political transition. The groups say they would talk to the regime, quote, within a specific time frame that would be agreed on with the United Nations, unquote. But Assad has repeatedly rejected calls for his ouster as a non-starter. In Washington, D.C., State Department spokesperson John Kirby called the accord a step forward.
This was an important milestone in getting to a place where in early January, they can actually begin to have political negotiations with the regime. This was a critical first step in getting there. There is still more work to do between now, the conclusion of today's meeting, and sometime in early January when we hope these political negotiations can continue. For instance, one big thing is to pick a negotiating team.
A recent roadmap agreed to by world powers would see talks between the rebels and the regime begin next month, followed by a ceasefire. Wednesday's meeting in Saudi Arabia excluded Syria's Kurdish fighters. The Iraqi government says it's made gains despite suffering new casualties in the campaign to retake Ramadi from the Islamic State. At least 24 Iraqi soldiers were reportedly killed in a pair of suicide bombings. But Iraq says it now controls more than half of Ramadi and plans a new push to root out the remaining ISIL fighters. The Pentagon, meanwhile, claims it's killed 3 top ISIL leaders in recent bombings. Army Colonel Steve Warren said U.S.-led strikes have killed ISIL's finance chief and 2 other senior figures.
In Iraq, we recently conducted strikes against 3 leaders in ISIL's financial and leadership network. Their removal will degrade ISIL's ability to command and control troops, and it disrupts their ability to finance their efforts.
A white former Oklahoma City police officer has been convicted in the serial rapes of mostly African-American women. Daniel Holtzclaw carried out the assaults while on duty after threatening victims with arrest if they did not comply with his sexual demands. On Thursday, a jury found him guilty on 18 counts. 13 victims testified during the trial, each with similar stories of threats, rape, and sexual assault. They ranged in age from 17 to 57, and all but one are African American. Holtzclaw faces up to life in prison when he's sentenced next month. Hundreds of people rallied in New York City Thursday outside Donald Trump's Midtown Hotel to protest the Republican presidential frontrunner's recent call to ban Muslims from the United States.
There shouldn't be a number on how many Syrians should be allowed into this country. And there's that Islamophobia and Arabophobia and xenophobia and all of it. It's becoming a real issue because all these extra safety regulations that have been taken since 9/11, at one point they're not regulations and more of they're putting fear into the Arab community and the Muslim community.
A petition to ban Donald Trump from entering the United Kingdom in response to his call for banning Muslims from the U.S. has gotten nearly 500,000 signatures, making it the most popular petition ever on the British government's website. The petition's description says, quote, "The UK has banned entry to many individuals for hate speech. The British Parliament must now consider debating it because it surpassed over 100,000 signatures." We'll speak with leading British economist Lord Stern about Trump's views on climate change later in the broadcast. Meanwhile, in the aftermath of Donald Trump's comments, Islamophobic incidents continue nationwide. On Thursday, the Capitol Hill office of the Council on American Islamic Relations was evacuated after a threatening envelope arrived by mail. The letter contained a suspicious white powder and a note reading, "Die a painful death, Muslims." CARE spokesperson Ibrahim Hooper told reporters that tests showed the powder posed no danger.
Field tests are showing that there's no hazard. It is now in the hands of the FBI, who will do more extensive tests on it to confirm that there's not that the substance was not dangerous. So we're thankful to fire and police authorities for their prompt action, and we're glad that hopefully it's not a dangerous substance that was sent to us in an envelope that contained a hate message.
Funerals have begun for the 14 people killed in last week's shooting massacre in San Bernardino, California. On Thursday, family members and friends gathered to remember Yvette Velasco, a 27-year-old woman who'd been due to begin working as a county health inspector after recently passing a state exam.
Really hoping that her family gets comforted by knowing how many people cared, that how many lives she touched, and how well she'll be remembered, that she's not gone because she touched too many other people's lives to ever be gone.
As the San Bernardino funerals begin, gun control advocates are making a renewed push for meaningful gun control legislation on Capitol Hill. Flanked by other members of the Newtown Action Alliance, the group formed following the 2012 massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut, co-founder Paul Murray said lawmakers have failed to keep Americans safe.
Gun violence is a public health crisis that must be addressed immediately. Americans are getting shot and killed everywhere and anywhere, in our streets, in our homes, schools, colleges, malls, movie theaters, workplaces, and places of worship. Too many of us are affected by gun violence, and more of us feel less safe. You have failed to keep us safe. We are sick and tired of your inaction.
The White House, meanwhile, says it's reviewing the nation's fiance visa program in the aftermath of the San Bernardino killings. Shooter Tashfeen Malik entered the U.S. from Pakistan last year under a visa that allowed her to marry her husband and alleged fellow shooter Syed Farouk. On Thursday, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest told reporters that while President Obama won't halt the program, it's now under review.
The fact that this person entered the United States and then carried out an act of terrorism on American soil, I think, is reason enough to take a look at the program, and that's exactly what the president's ordered.
And protests continue in Chicago over the more than year-old police killing of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald and potential police cover-up. Near-daily actions have been held to denounce the killing and call for Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel to resign. In one of several demonstrations Thursday, about 100 medical students wearing white coats staged a die-in outside Chicago City Hall. Hundreds also marched in the streets and blocked traffic. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting. Hi, I'm Amy Goodman. I want to thank you for tuning in to Democracy Now! We are so grateful to our fans and followers for being a part of the daily conversation. By choosing a news source that's committed to the truth, you're carrying the message of independent media, reaching hundreds of thousands of people every day. In these times of war and elections, we need a media not sponsored by corporations that profit from war, but a media that's truly independent, funded by you. Democracy Now! Is not paid for by the weapons manufacturers, the insurance industry, or the oil, gas, coal, or nuclear companies. We don't take advertising or corporate underwriting dollars. That means we rely on your donations to make our daily independent news hour possible. We need your support today to keep bringing you the hard-hitting, in-depth reporting you've come to expect 5 days a week. Visit democracynow.org, or you can call 888-999-3877. That's 888-999-3877 to make your holiday gift to Democracy Now! Today. Thanks so much for sharing Democracy Now! Stories all year long.